Great. Well, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, County Manager and Peru and Recorder Hanson, thank you very much for having us here. This is our busy time with the election season upon us. We're already in the election mode and implementing our plan. So this is a great opportunity to share with the board our preparation of our entire team. Because it is a group effort that makes this possible and makes this happen. Some of the important dates that I want to share and very briefly highlight are the key milestones. We are starting our tabulation and ballot counting on Friday this week, on the 28th, and we are bringing in all our special election boards, which are bipartisan boards that help us with any snags and ballot duplication and all the processes that we mobilize for election day. In preparation for setting up our polling places and testing of our equipment, on November 7th, we will send 10 different trucks, like covering all the different covering all the different polling places and implementing the polling locations at all 45 counting locations. And election day is our show time. We start really early in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and go through the next morning around 2 a.m. One of the items I wanted to highlight is that the initial election results will be released around 8 p.m. on November 8th. These will be election results primarily of the ballots that have been counted early ballots that have been counted prior to election day. By statute, we are required to also start within 24 hours to start our political party hand audit, and both political parties have agreed to credential and assign hand auditors for us, which is a great thing, and it's an important element of, again, guaranteeing the fairness and the clarity of the election results. And we'll release an official final results around the November 16th, which is the deadline for curing any signature or on the ballot, like signature issues on the ballot, or bringing in additional identification, which is a legal requirement. And then prior to us canvassing and certifying the election results, we'll conduct also a post-election logic and accuracy of our equipment to make sure that everything ran as it was supposed to and everything is tabulated correctly. When Steve alluded to this, Madam Chair, like voting in Coconino County has always been safe, secure, and transparent, despite a lot of anxiety and a lot of attention around the election. Like, we serve all our voters, all our registered voters in Coconino County through bipartisan boards with accessibility and compliance with all the ADA requirements, and we also provide language access to on the ballot in Navajo, Hopi, and Spanish as well. What's on the ballot this election? There are definitely the federal and state races that get a lot of attention nationally, but there are also county races on the ballot this election for the Justice of the Peace, for the Superintendent of Schools, for the Clerk of the Superior Court. And then there are several local city and town races for that are on the ballot, as well as a number of state proposition. This is a very long ballot. There are some precincts will have up to 42 choices for voters to make. So that definitely brings up the need for like research and preparation on the part of the voters. One of the most recently, one of the most prominent races that are local to Coconino County that have gotten a lot of calls on our end have been two write-in races for the Page Justice of the Peace as well as the Flagstaff Council member races. These are two write-in races with the passing of the candidate for the Justice of the Peace in Page. We had to reopen the write-in candidacy and application period, which meant that there are now 5 different candidates that are vying for that position. The city of Flagstaff is in a similar in a similar position with the council races. There are two candidates on the ballot, but there are 4 seats total up for election for the city council race. The names of the candidates for both the official names of the candidates for both these races will be posted at all our polling locations as required by statute, as well as they are posted on our website in order for people that are voting early or want to do the research to get access to that information. Again, in response to some of the questions that we've gotten from the public, we've pushed out some of the information with help from the public information director here at the county on how to properly fill the entire ballot, but also the special attention that's required around the write-in candidates with filling both the oval as well as the name of the write-in candidate. In anticipation, and this is a model that we've put together in anticipation of what would be the potential turnout on election day of voters in person. We developed a model based on several assumptions, and they are listed here. With this being a midterm election, and also the types of contests that are on ballot and the recent overall trends, we kind of developed this model of an expected voter turnout around 70 to 85% of the overall registered voters in the county, and we are prepared to serve voters on election day up to like 27,000 people casting their ballot. And for context, I wanted to provide the board that in the last general election, which was a presidential election in 2020, we served at the polling places about 11,000 voters. So we are taking into consideration a lot of the moving pieces and the information that is available, and preparing to serve close to 3 times the number of voters on election day, and have made all the provisions to address like all those issues by monitoring, with the recorder's office, like monitoring the early voter trends, to deploy the right amount of equipment and the right and the number of people to support a smooth election day. In-person voting on election day, again, like I said earlier, we are setting up 45 polling locations throughout the county. The official hours of voting are 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., with the exception of the Havasupai village that has special election hours due to some health restriction and traveling restrictions to that community. The 45 places also include 3 vote centers. 2 are here in Flagstaff and 1 is in Tuba City. Those vote centers serve all voters in the county, regardless of their assigned precincts, because we have the technology available to print ballots on demand for those at those 3 locations. And again, we are staffing the vote centers in anticipation of a healthy voter turnout, as well as with all the all the information, including the write-in list and withdrawal candidate list, so every voter can have that information accessible at the polling locations. We are also implementing our voter utilization and voter lines to make sure that we have information readily available to deal with any dynamics that may arise on election day. We are setting up an election operations center that includes several functions. Some of those functions are technology support for our election poll workers and procedural support for them in dealing with different issues that may come up on election day or questions. And our call center will also field any questions from the public or media. We have a great collaboration and we'll have, as part of our operations center, access to the TLO that from the sheriff's office, as well as the county attorney's office, the deputy county attorney, that will be with us in order to, again, address issues right away and have and guarantee that access is not jeopardized in any shape or form on the part of the voters on election day. In terms of informing the voters about the polling locations and where the polling places are and hours, we've by law, we are required to do a direct mail of the sample ballot that was sent to over 20,000 households in the county. These are households that have at least one voter that is not on the permanent early voting list. We are also pushing information through our website and the radio and social media, and have constantly pushed out our main phone line for questions and inquiries from the public as well. Who is involved with our election? And I think this is important because we kind of just touched base on the logistics and the setup of the polling places, but who is involved with our elections are definitely our community members and family members in a lot of instances that staff the polling locations. Our goal is to have to deploy on election day around 425 election board workers, and these make up our bipartisan boards at polling locations, at our central counting location, and at our receiving board and the warehouse functions. We are almost 85% fully completed with the recruitment of the poll workers, and have a healthy list of backups for certain areas. But we are safeguarding, because we want to be mindful of the party balance. We are safeguarding some of the places for party balance at different polling locations, and are working very closely with both our political party chairs, the county party chairs, as well as the Office of the Secretary of State to find election board workers that meet the minimum qualifications, as well as are willing to travel to some of these hard to fill locations in Coconino County. We, in terms of the setup too, is in the way we are supporting our election board workers, we're also deploying on election day 15 troubleshooters that will have that will cover an area of 2 to 3 polling locations, and that's an additional support for those poll workers to serve the voters on election day. The troubleshooters receive a higher level of training, and most of them are currently already working with us as temporary employees. We have broken up the training in both in-person and online. We have over 45 in-person sessions available for election board workers to teach the legal requirement, the procedural requirements that everybody needs to know as they take the oath to serving the public on election day. And we also have an online platform where some of our returning poll workers can get the certification done through an online platform. Another group that is also involved with our election is the political party observers for both the political parties. We have already 25 observers that have been credentialed by the political party chairs, which is again a requirement by statute in our state, and they are observing the election process at polling locations. They're observing our counting board and the tabulation at our central tabulation process, as well as our receiving of election materials and on election night. We do all of the activities that I've been talking about with the idea to effectively and efficiently and timely release election results for the public and for the candidates that are involved in the that appear on the ballot. So I just wanted to very briefly touch on some of the milestones of when the election results are going to be available and released, so the public has a good expectation of what's all involved. So the initial results are going to be released at 8 p.m. on November 8th on Election Day. And again, the first release will include all the tabulation of the early ballots that have been verified and tabulated to that point. And then subsequent releases are going to include the votes that were cast on Election Day from the polling places as they arrive from all those 45 different locations throughout the county. And we usually see the last, we'll probably see the last arrival at our central counting location of ballots around 1 a.m. and the final release of results at 2 a.m. on Wednesday, November 9th. And this is the route that brings the ballots from our northern communities in Fredonia and Page, as well as some of the more remote locations in the Navajo Nation. We will report any of the outstanding ballots that are pending to be processed and counted by November 10th. So that will give the general public the count of like what's still to be tabulated. Our official write-in results will be also updated on November 10th. And then every day at 5 p.m. So for those two important races that I highlighted earlier, like we will be able to have those write-in results released on November 10th, and then every day as we continue our tabulation of the ballots. And then the final unofficial results, which will be done after the curing period, will be released on November 16th, and then they don't become final until we complete the canvassing of the election to the board, which by state statute is needs to happen no later than November 28th. And with that, I wanted to also note that the reason why we have tentatively scheduled the results to be canvassed on November 28th is due to some legislative changes and amendments that happened that automatically make races eligible for recounts. And previously, automatic recounts were tied to 1/10 of 1%. And the state legislature this year passed legislation and increased that margin to 1/2 of 1%, which automatically meant that more races are likely now to get into the process of an automatic recount. And in order to sync the calendars with other counties statewide for any potential statewide recounts, we might need to canvass our election results on November 28th. And then this is, again, a little bit more information and contact in terms of how to reach us and kind of the general social media presence as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Recorder Hanson.
Well, why don't we see if there's some questions maybe from the board members, and then we'll turn it over to our county recorder. Is that all right with everyone? Then if I can, just a couple comments and then a couple questions too. First of all, thank you, Esler, for you and your staff. And as was pointed out by the county manager, it is this is always difficult to make sure that we afford our population what is the centerpiece of our democracy, and that is open, safe, accurate, transparent elections. So for the work that you and your staff are doing, and I know that over time it hasn't been made easier, and we certainly appreciate all that you and your staff have done, and to ensure members of our public that in fact we do have a highly efficient, highly operating, safe, accurate, and transparent voting process in place here in Coconino County. So I want to really thank you for that. The other is just a couple questions that I'm getting. That this is unusual in that we have local elections, city council, which are obviously something that are of great importance to our city of Flagstaff and residents. And there are three potential write-in candidates. So the question is for the write-in, and I really appreciate the work that the county has done, putting the names at the polling stations, putting the correct names and spelling at the websites. And quite frankly, that ad is great. And I even put it on my social media pages that the county took out to show the public how to fill in their ballot and how to write in a person's name on the ballot, and really appreciate that. I think that's been very helpful. But what happens if someone screws up and writes the person's name in, just like we've shown them to do it, but they've misspelled the name, or they've used, instead of a full name, they've used a abbreviation for the first name, instead of William, Bill, for example. What happens to that vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our the write-in candidate tabulation process goes through a bipartisan board that does the adjudication and reviews each individual write-in race, and they use very specific voter intent guidelines to determine that the voter intent is clear about maybe like a typo in the spelling or a transposing of letters on a particular candidate. And that bipartisan board again uses the same methodology and the same voter intent guide in order to determine consistently and without any equivocation that the voter intent is clear and that the ballots are tabulated and cast for the correct candidate.
Great. So I guess the best advice we can give is what you've been giving, and that is do your research, plan your vote, and try to make sure you have the name completely and spelled correctly, so that there is no problem with your ballot. Is that what you advise?
Yeah, that is the best. That is the best advice to move us forward. Is for if there are if the voter wants to cast a ballot for a write-in candidate, to fill the oval as well as write the name of the candidate fully, and that way the voter intent is very clear, and the bipartisan board that is adjudicating that ballot can make a very easy decision that there are no equivocation in the process.